Hello and welcome to our viewers in the U.S. and around the world. I'm Ana Cabrera in New York.
And I'm Anderson Cooper in Lviv, Ukraine. Crucial talks between Ukrainian and Russian delegates are now over, with the shelling and the bombings continuing. Explosions and air raid sirens sounded east of Kiev city center just as those discussions wrapped up. A senior U.S. defense official says that Russia could start taking a more aggressive approach, in their words, towards the capital city. In Kharkiv, a Russian rocket attack targeted a residential neighborhood, leaving 1 civilian dead and 31 injured. Before the smoke even cleared, Russia's Vladimir Putin told France's Emmanuel Macron that the Russian military doesn't pose a threat to Ukrainian civilians. But we know that is not true. A senior U.S. defense official telling reporters that Russian forces are striking civilian targets. We still have a lot to learn about those talks, but we do know that the pressure is building on Vladimir Putin from all sides. His forces facing fierce resistance on the battlefield, and Russia's economy facing a financial meltdown. We're covering this across the globe. Fred Plankton is live near Belgorod, Russia. Alex Marquardt is in Kiev for us at this hour. Let's start with you, Alex. What can you tell us about the loud explosions just outside the capital?
Well, Anderson, after an unusually quiet day, we heard those explosions just as we got word that those talks were coming to an end. Now, I'm not saying that those are connected, but it was certainly notable. We heard from here 3 loud explosions. We've been able to pinpoint at least one of them coming from the northeastern part of Kyiv, about 11 miles away, so 18 kilometers. So that's pretty close, in an area of town called Brovary. We have been told, thankfully, no one was killed, but that there were 6 wounded. Now, at the same time, we have been able to verify new video from Ukraine's second biggest city, Kharkiv, where there has been heavy Russian shelling there today. That city just 20 miles from the Russian border up there in the northeastern part of the country. And this was a residential neighborhood that was hit with multiple rockets. We're told that they landed near a supermarket in an area called Saltivka. So, Anderson, Russia clearly not letting up in their offense, but at the same time we have seen significant defense, of course, by the Ukrainian forces. Here around Kyiv, at least 2 Russian columns were torched and destroyed over the course of the past 2 days. One thing that is increasingly worrying, that we're keeping a very close eye on, is this Russian convoy coming at Kyiv from the north. It's about 3 miles or 5 kilometers long. They do appear to be getting closer. Anderson, of course, Kyiv would be the top prize for President Putin, who is looking to, we believe, encircle this city and, of course, topple the government. Anderson.
And let's talk about the talks that took place along the border with Belarus. Any indication that progress was made?
Well, progress was made in that they didn't fall apart, so that's good, right? I mean, these were 5 hours of talks. No one, went there for the sake of it and then walked away. This was not the 2 presidents meeting on this border, but they did send senior-level delegations. An aide to President Putin was there, an aide to President Zelensky, as well as Ukraine's defense minister. Both sides saying that they are open to new talks in the coming days. Both sides saying that they mapped out areas for further discussion. Ukraine went into those talks saying what we are demanding is that there's an immediate ceasefire and that Russia withdraws their troops. Russia certainly did not agree to that just yet, so it's too soon to say that there was progress. But there's no evidence that the fighting is going to stop in the meantime. Anderson.
I want to go now to Fred Plankton. Fred, from your vantage point on the Russian side, Russian forces, you've been seeing them advancing. Obviously, they're advancing much slower within Ukraine than they had anticipated, that they had planned. What have you been seeing today on the Russian side of the border?
Hi there, Anderson. Yeah, one of the things from our vantage point that we have here on the Russian side of the border is because we are very close to that front line in Kharkiv, where a lot of the really heavy fighting really was taking place today, is you can see some of the moves the Russians are making there that then translate into some of the things that happen on the battlefield in Kharkiv. Specifically today, what happened is that Kharkiv, some of the civilian areas there were apparently shelled, and what we saw on our side of the border, again, directly close to the front line was multiple rocket launchers firing a lot of salvos there. And then we also saw some of those multiple rocket launchers. They're called the Uragan rocket launchers, being moved closer to the front line, closer towards Kharkiv. Now, we ourselves saw and filmed at least 3 of these very large rocket launchers moving closer towards the border area, and also a loading vehicle moving closer to the border area as well. The other thing that we're also seeing, Anderson, we also have to say is the Russians are moving a lot of forces around on the Russian side of the border, but some of their gear seems to be breaking down. We actually saw one Russian rocket launcher that seemed to be broken on the side of the road with the crew trying to fix it, and even a howitzer that seemed to have toppled over on the side of the road, almost like it had fallen into a ditch. Those are the kind of things that we actually see quite frequently. Russian gear that seems to be breaking down before it even reaches the front lines. A lot of trucks, for instance, that also need to be towed as well. But one thing that we definitely need to point out, Andrew, I think is really important, is that the Russians still have a lot of gear on this side of the border. They are still able to escalate the situation if that's what they choose to do, especially in the sort of villages that are around that final checkpoint. As you get towards Kharkiv, towards that very hot front line, there certainly are still a lot of tanks there, a lot of armored vehicles there, howitzers, and other very heavy equipment as well, Anderson.
Yeah, international condemnation and sanctions have been growing against Russia for that. Let's go back to Alan Cabrera in New York.